Have you ever thought of what it would feel like to live on the moon? Would it be too cold or too hot? Well, we do know that the moon is about 200,000 miles away from the Earth, and that the moon doesn't have an atmosphere like Earth, but having the moon is important for life on Earth. The moon's gravitational pull controls the high and low tides of our seas and oceans, therefore maintaining the equilibrium of the Earth's cyclical tidal patterns. But what if humans were to live on the moon for a while, say during a space exploration mission like the Apollo 17 mission, when astronauts Eugene Cernan and Harrison Schmitt had to stay on the moon for 75 hours? What did they experience? Was the moon too cold or too hot to survive? In this video, we're going to let you in on some interesting facts about the moon's temperature and what influences it. But before we begin, here's a fun fact. You would be stunned to know that over the course of 29 Earth days, one side of the moon remains fixed on the planet's surface while reflecting the sun's intense light. This is why the moon is often seen shining brightly in the Earth's night sky. Now back to answering the question, how hot or how cold is the moon? You should know that the moon fluctuates greatly in temperature throughout the day and night. There are areas of the moon that receive direct sunlight, often termed a lunar day, and areas of the moon that receive little to no direct sunlight, often termed lunar night. The lunar days and nights, in contrast to those on Earth, are extremely long, as they typically last for about 13 Earth days. During these days, the surface temperatures of the moon can rise by up to 100 degrees Celsius to 200 degrees Celsius as a result of the sustained solar radiation incident on its surface. On the other hand, during the lunar night, surface temperatures can fall as low as negative 150 degrees Celsius to negative 247 degrees Celsius. What influences this fluctuation in temperature? There are two main things: conduction and radiation. Radiation is when electromagnetic energy strikes the moon while traveling from the sun. It's almost like how a microwave cooks food. Meanwhile, conduction is the transfer of heat from an area of surface that is hot to one that is cold. When radiation happens, the surface temperature gets extremely hot, but when conduction happens, it does the opposite. The boundary between temperatures is called the thermal boundary region. Do we actually know the actual surface temperature of the moon? Well, it is challenging to determine the precise temperature of the moon's surface for a variety of reasons. First, the lunar surface elevation, angle, and shade all have a direct impact on how much sunlight is absorbed there. Lower-lying regions on the moon maintain a temperature of about 100 degrees Celsius, while mountainous regions on the moon are hot, reaching over 200 degrees Celsius. On the lunar surface, mountains and craters may also cast a shadow that blocks solar radiation and causes temperatures to drop quickly. However, there are other areas of the moon that never experience direct solar radiation, like the surfaces that are angled away from the sun. In these places, the temperature can drop as low as negative 247 degrees Celsius, which is pretty extreme, whereas the temperature at the craters may reach to an absolute zero or negative 273 degrees Celsius. What about the temperatures during the lunar night? Well, despite the fact that the same side of the moon always faces Earth, the moon does rotate as it travels around the sun. When the moon switches to the lunar night, the surface can get very cold. This is because the sun isn't directly shining on the surface, reducing radiation, just as we've mentioned before. By this time, the temperatures on the moon can drop as low as a negative 150 degrees Celsius because its surface only receives conduction from the moon's core, radiation from distant stars, and a lunar day's worth of surface conduction from certain regions of the moon. This means that we only see a portion of the moon when we look up at the night sky. What about the temperature during the lunar day? On a lunar day, temperatures can rise as high as 200 degrees Celsius. The moon's surface can be directly baked by solar radiation in the absence of a lunar atmosphere. It is similar to you sitting next to a tanning lamp when the sun radiates the moon. Although it feels warm and comforting at first, sitting there for 14 straight hours would definitely result in considerable sunburn. I hope you won't try that on Earth, because if you do, you'd have to remain still for about 14 straight days. Because the moon doesn't have an atmosphere, it has extremely high temperatures and significant thermal gradients. That is why the moon can either be too hot or too cold. So share your comments about this in the comment section below. If you liked the video, go ahead and click the like and share buttons. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more content similar to this. Thank you for taking the time to watch.